part of this very first ARCAthens virtual residency webinar, where we have an opportunity to meet our inaugural fellows, discuss their work. I will give you a really brief introduction to ARCAthens. We're an artist residency center, which is in Athens. Our mission is to provide opportunity and support to artists, curators, and scholars to have cross-cultural dialogue and cross-pollinate ideas. In 2019, we had our inaugural year of operations. We hosted 2 physical residencies in Athens, and we're very pleased with both of those. They were very successful. The fellows were really touched by their experience, and we're even seeing impact. Our inaugural curatorial fellow that we brought to Athens in 2019 spring has been selected by the Athens Biennale, Larios Menza, to co-curate the 7th Athens Biennale. So we're extremely pleased at the results of our programming in 2019. As we all know, in 2020, there were some changes to the idea of a physical residency due to the pandemic. And we moved forward with our founding aspiration to have a dynamic digital platform for the fellows, the artists, curators, and scholars that we support. We've always wanted to have a website and digital opportunities that would come together in support of our fellows as well as our physical residencies. We're a young organization, and so we focused in 2019 on the physical, but we always did want to expand and provide this kind of opportunity. And now with the pandemic, our pivot was very natural. We immediately focused our energies on designing and implementing the ARCAthens virtual residency program. And so I'm very excited to introduce, first of all, let me tell you a little bit about this program, which was conceptualized as a visual conversation through an Instagram takeover. ARCAthens allowed our fellows to post their images concurrently, one at a time, as in a conversation with each other. The month of the residency was split into 4 weekly themes. And we'll talk about that a little more later, but the fellows were able to create a conversation through their images and through their text. And without further ado, I would like to introduce our 2 fellows for our inaugural ARCAthens virtual residency. Blanka Amezkua is an artist, cultural promoter, educator, and project creator based in the South Bronx with exhibitions at PS1 Contemporary Art Center, the Bronx Museum of the Arts, Queens Museum, El Museo del Barrio, Art Base, Brussels, and Elizabeth Foundation for the Arts, San Diego Art Institute, and the Delaware Center for the Contemporary Arts, among others. Amezcua's practice is greatly influenced and informed by folk art and popular culture. And in 2008, she began an artist-run project in her bedroom called Bronx Blue Bedroom Project. BBBP ran from 2008 to 2010. Between 2010 and 2016, she lived in Athens, Greece, where she initiated Fokianou 24/7, now Fokianou Art Space, in the center of the Hellenic capital. That would be Athens. Blanka currently operates AAA 3A, Alexander Avenue Apartment 3A, which is an alternative artist-run project which offers food, dialogue, workshops, and art in her living room. Mentions of her work and projects can be found in various notable publications, including Hyperallergic, the New York Times, Art News, HuffPost Arts, the International Review of African American Art, and Time Out New York. We're very pleased that Blanka participated in the first AVR and will be soon joining us in conversation. Our second ARCAthens virtual residency inaugural fellow is Eirene Efstathiou, who is a visual artist living in Athens, Greece. She works in a variety of different media, from painting and printmaking to performance and small-scale installations. Her practice investigates collective and archival memory, sentiment, affect, and how these function in the public sphere. Efstathiou is a graduate of the School of the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston, and Tufts University, a place I know well since I'm a fellow alumnus, where she studied painting and printmaking, and the Athens School of Fine Arts. Another place I know well because our physical residency, our Athens residency fellows have all gone and lectured there. Eirene Efstathiou received a residency fellowship at ZMA's Printmaking in Northampton, Massachusetts in 2017, and she's currently a PhD candidate at the Athens School of Fine Art. Efstathiou has participated in numerous solo and group exhibitions in Europe and the United States. Her most recent solo exhibitions include A Jagged Line Through Space at the Eleni Koroneou Gallery in Athens, Regarding the Continuity of Disrupted Images at the Eirene Laub Gallery in Brussels, Belgium, I Draw, I Learn, Greece, Eleni Koroneou Gallery in 2016. Her most recent group exhibitions include When the President is History at Depo in Istanbul, Turkey, Anatomy of Political Melancholy at the Athens Conservatory, the Schwartz Foundation in Athens, Greece, Truth is Always Something Else at the Galleria Nazionale d'Arte Moderna e Contemporanea in Rome, Italy, Antidoron, works from the EMS collection, Documenta 14, Kassel, Germany. Efstathiou's work is represented in public and private collections in Europe and the United States. And in 2009, she was the recipient of the D'Este Prize from the D'Este Foundation. So welcome to Blanka and Eirene. We're very, very pleased to have you here. And I'd like to take this opportunity to give Blanka the floor and have Blanka talk to us for a few minutes about her work.
Thank you, Aris. And I'll expand on and tell you how wonderful it was to actually partake in this timely, as you already mentioned, virtual residency. But at first, I'd like to share a little bit about what my practice is. You've already mentioned some aspects of it, but I want to just briefly expand because I know I only have 5 minutes. And I would also, after that, I will share some of the work that I will expand on some more images of my work. So I would like to say that my collaboration, my work really is about collaboration and education and community building. These are central to my personal work and my projects. My identity, my experiences and artistic decisions are shaped by the reality that I am a mestiza, Mexican-American bicultural immigrant artist living in New York. I am formally trained as a painter. My multidisciplinary practice employs techniques often considered artisanal, traditional, or domestic to address timely cultural, political, and gender issues. My current body of work explores the expanded possibilities of papel picado, which is a paper cutting technique from Mexico. And I developed a series of works in collaboration with Puebla-based papel picado maestro, Don René Mendoza. As you mentioned before, I did live in Athens between 2010 and 2016. And it was in Greece where I created a series of photographic, subtle physical interventions for the first time. These interventions consisted of placing my body inside corners in public spaces and using my captured silhouette based on a specific posture to expand on the body of work based on these silhouettes through the use of diverse material arrangements. I use my silhouette as a basic form to initiate and devise new meanings, tensions, representations, and perceptions. As you mentioned, I am now currently living in South Bronx. I returned to the Bronx in 2016, and I am, instead of using my bedroom when I came back, now I am actually exhibiting artists in my living room in a project that is called Alexander Avenue Apartment 3A or AAA 3A. So I thank you for this invitation. to partake in this wonderful collaboration with Eirene. And now I'm going to show you some of the work. So I'm going to show you some embroideries that you have already you saw. This is work that I created and that I created in 2007 and 8 during the Bush years that I feel that are very pertinent now. These are the silhouettes. I began to actually placing my body in different public space locations throughout Athens and other locations. This is in Armenia. This is in Nafplio. And then I took the silhouette shape to create other forms. I began to using the form in public space and with different materials. This is cactus. This is a series of works that I created with other people to raise awareness and attention for 43 missing students in Mexico. This is an installation I created in Casita Maria in South Bronx. And I've been working with flowers and incorporating the silhouette to create, again, different meanings and iterations of the idea of the silhouette. This is the collaboration I did with Don Rene Mendoza. He taught me how to create papel picado, and this is the papel picado that we created based on my immigration within the US. So there were different elements of different city emblems and different fruits and vegetables. And I think my slideshow went rather quickly. I am so sorry.
No, don't worry. We'll have a lot more opportunity
Yes.
to get a little deeper into things after this brief introduction about your work. I know that it's a very short time to speak about such an incredible body of work, and I had to hold myself back from commenting on how beautiful and arresting these images are. And I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to speak a little longer about them. Thank you so much, Blanka.
Thank you.
Let's move on to Eirene now. Eirene Efstathiou, just take a moment to introduce us a little bit to your work.
Hi, so I thought I would have, hi everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
And again, I wanted to thank Aris and Blanka for a really great first virtual residency. And I will just have a slideshow running as I say a few things about my work. I'll be brief. So these are images from the series of works, A Jagged Line Through Space, Other Things Happen in July Besides Swimming, Other Things Happen in December Besides Christmas, Kiafa, and Memories of the Present. And so I work mostly in 2D old media, quotes, old media. That is painting, printmaking, drawing, with some performance work and small scale installations. All my works are made either from found archival source material or pictures that I take myself. And the method of collecting the images is probably one of the most crucial parts of my practice, and it involves a deliberate wandering or meandering in the space of the city and the physical, mostly physical archive. And themes that interest me in my work are city space and social justice movements, how and what media images can narrate beyond the news, what counts as history and historical document, the relationship between our experience of significant political events and how they appear in the media, and how these events inscribe themselves in memory and in the space of the city. So although there's a lot of gaps between all those things that I just described, and I situate my practice in those gaps, in the gaps between memory, experience, ideology, media, the space of the city. And the sort of quotidian leftover of all these things. And I already said how they inscribe themselves on the space of the city. And I can play the slideshow again. And I think for the moment, that's mostly what I wanted to say about my work.
Well, thank you. This gives us a nice introduction to your image making and your concerns. I'm just personally so pleased to have gotten to know, because I knew both of your work a little, but through this virtual residency that we've done together, that you've done together, I've really gotten to know your work quite a bit more, and I'm very pleased with that. So let's get into the virtual residency, whose goal was to empower you as fellows that ARCAthens support, empower you, support you, be there for you during a very difficult time for everybody, a time when we're afraid to even go out of our apartments, a time when we are not connecting and we're not sharing ideas. But we are, because of technology. So this virtual residency and Instagram, the goal was to give you an opportunity, introduce you to each other, and give you not only an opportunity and the financial support that the fellowship offers, but give you a platform and create an exchange, a dialogue between an artist in Athens and an artist in New York. Curiously, both of you virtual residency fellows are in this present moment in Athens, Greece, which I'm titillated by the way. I love that. Blanka arrived in Athens a few days ago. So that's something that's wonderful for you, Blanka. We're all very happy you're in Greece. I'm sure we wish we could be with you. But let's get into the Instagram program. And as I said previously, we came together to decide on what each week's themes were going to be. And we decided the first week's theme, you decided the first week's theme was going to be location. We started the virtual residency program, the Instagram takeover, just as the United States was reeling with social unrest, with exasperation. It's the word that I think is most fitting. It seems that the cup overfloweth with George Floyd's murder that we all witnessed, those 8 minutes, on top of everything else. Not only that week, and there were 4 incidences that week, but the institutional racism that we're all witness to in the United States. And that's how you began. So Blanka's first post was demonstrations in her neighborhood in the South Bronx. And we can see that on our website. It's documented. And that was the first post for location. So let's talk about that. What you guys were, what you were thinking as you're approaching a visual conversation in Instagram in the middle of a pandemic and on the 10th day of social unrest.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was just very, it was just to have this exchange with Eirene and be part of the residency exactly at that moment. I felt it was a way also to not only share what was happening in my neighborhood and in the country, to whoever was going to see it somewhere else. But it also situated me in a place where I had to be very present and aware, and it just, like you said, it really changed the entire context of what was, we were indoors, and all of a sudden we all, we needed to go outdoors and support this. It really just put me in a place of an emergency, of really of things that need to be voiced and that need to be heard, So the first couple of postings were actually of things that were happening right in front of my house. I live very close to the precinct in South Bronx, and I we were out there marching and demanding justice for what had just happened. So you could feel, the energy of we all of a sudden forgot about the COVID, and it was just, now we need to focus on this in this precise moment.
Yeah, we did forget about the COVID, didn't we? We haven't forgotten about it now. I guess we all need to work a little better on multitasking. You were going to say something, Eirene?
Well, I mean, the urgency of that context, I mean, it captured the world's imagination. So the urgency of Blanka's context was an interesting challenge. Although, and it was also an opportunity to show solidarity from abroad via a conversation about art. So I changed location to the hashtag where we are, because that hashtag has, like so many, it has, I don't know, millions of appearances on Instagram, and it's usually people's, vacation or, things that are more mundane, let's say.
Yeah, and it's interesting because as the week progressed and Blanka posted the black square or black rectangle in support of Black Lives Matter, you posted work that you've made that dealt with some of the issues of expression in the urban landscape. And as I scroll, I see POTUS's face from different graffiti that Blanka documented in New York. It's interesting to me that in how you said, Eirene, that this was a moment that touched people around the world. There were protests and demonstrations in Athens in support of Black Lives Matter in front of the US Embassy. I saw a lot of photographs of that. As you're right, there were protests all over the world, which for me as an American living in the US is really fascinating to see how the whole world seems to be concerned and exasperated about the ongoing systemic racism.
Well, one of my posts from that week was a work called Bleach. And it said, where we are, what I said about that work was, where we are always has a history. So a lot of the work, I think that I was inspired to post during this, with this as the inaugural week of the residency, had to do with historical instances of social justice movements, both obscure and famous, let's say, mostly from a Greek context. So,
yeah, it was very poignant, and then we moved on to our second week, and the theme that you chose was proximity. which follows location, I think, quite well, and brings up so many issues, you know, for your hosts, ARCAthens. Proximity for us is a very big concept, as we do try to bring the world closer together, and during a virtual residency, it's a poignant topic, but also in the time of pandemic, a time when, you know, we've been advised to socially distance and keep however many feet or meters between us. And that was very interesting. We started with an embroidery image by Blanka of two women embracing and touching each other, and followed by an image of from Eirene of a large crowd being together in proximity. So, Blanka, you want to start us on proximity and share with us some of your ideas about this week's theme?
Yeah, you know, I mean, the first week was just very, it was very emotional, because I said I was next to, I mean, I was physically where things were really happening, and I was partaking in what was going on. So I really did not post my work. I was really just trying to present what was happening in the location. But when we jumped to proximity during the second week, I decided to talk about this or focus on the body, on how with all the enclosure that we've had, and with, you know, maybe the way we are going to be we are more distant with each other. Even, you know, when I see friends, it's, you don't greet them the same way, and we're doing things in a very feels very unnatural still. So I wanted to focus on the proximity and the thought of the body, like how will we go, are we going to be close? Are we going? So when I posted the image of the embroidery, the two women embroidered, will we be able to have that contact? You know, that same proximity that we had with the skin of others. You know, it's so I just began to think a lot about just the body itself and what changes we're all going through.
And then the images continued, the conversation continued. A really arresting image of two hands that are about to touch that you posted, Blanka. And then an image from Eirene, which is a documentation of a previous performance. Eirene, you want to talk a little bit about that project?
Yeah, I mean, I did, there were, I thought about proximity in various, you know, also how close can bodies come together, you know, in a crowd. So it was, but I thought about also in one of the posts, proximity to other beings. How close do we come to other, you know, living beings? So that was I gave a little shout out to Donna Haraway there. But the post, then I thought, inspired by Blanka's post on the introduction of the body and your more performative work, Blanka, I thought, perfect. This is a perfect opportunity to post some of the few performances that I've done. And I think about that work as something between like a public action and a performance. So the intention initially was for it to fail both as art and activism. And it's never for an audience of more than the people there on the street. And one of the things that I did was the photograph that you're referring to, Aris, was I staged something like a demonstration of one person on Newbury Street in Boston. And I walked down Newbury Street shouting slogans in Greek, which was an archive in itself. So first I collected an archive of demonstration, you know, things that people shout at demonstrations. So part of that was from memory. Part of it was from other people's memories. And part of it was I would go to the demonstration. I mean, demonstrations happen quite often in Greece. You know, there are moments when when a lot of people are in the street, but there are also, you know, moments when demonstrations happen with fewer people, let's say. So I would go to the demonstration and, you know, make a note of the slogans. And that project was about how close can we come to the social justice movements of other places. And I was thinking about when I did that work, obviously nobody responded. It was just a spectacle, a strange spectacle of a person walking down the street, shouting in another language. And I was interested in how basically social justice movements of another country are in another language. On the one hand, through physical gesture, and I mean, on one hand, we can understand exactly what is happening. I mean, we can understand the desire for a more just world, but there are cultural specifics that are difficult to understand. So, so that was, and I think I said that that solidarity begins with understanding this divide, you know, understanding this gap, and trying to, as I said in the introduction to my work, sort of be comfortable with the gap between things, rather situate understanding in that rather than in a certainty or an obliqueness.
I love the idea of the gap because it, especially under the theme of proximity, because it implies a physicality, or actually the absence of physicality between 2 points. And then you mentioned desire as well. And I think a quote you posted is, the desire to touch and be touched by the amorous other is always also the desire to touch another world, which I thought was interesting. Where did that quote come
It's
from?
Ipatia Vurlumis, who's also a dear friend, and her essay 10 Theses on Touch is available on the internet and worth reading for sure.
Yeah, very interesting. And then we move on to our third week, where your dialogue continues with each other. The theme for the third week is movement, which of course, when I think of movement, I think of motion and a body in space. But movement can be many other things. It can be a political movement. It can be a collective. And we started with a really rather gorgeous shadow play from Blanka, from where the body becomes almost geometric through the shadow. And then another performance, another documentation of a performance by Eirene. So Blanka, I don't know, maybe you can talk about how this dialogue developed, especially coming onto that mandorla image of your silhouettes making this symmetrical, almost like a Buddhist image.
Yeah, so like I mentioned that in Athens, I began working with placing my figure in corners. As I was taking these images, I then became very interested in actually the simple posture that I was, the simple action in that corner and my posture. Then I decided to work only with the image as a basic form of how I could create other ideas and other, you know, expand expand the possibilities of what I could communicate with that sign of the silhouette. So I then began the project that you're referring to is actually a collaboration with 43 different people in Athens that opened up their homes or public spaces where I could I was creating pieces that were dedicated to the students, the missing students from Ayotzinapa, Guerrero. This is a tragic event that took place on September 26th of 2014, where 43 students were abducted in Mexico. And to this day, the parents are looking for the students. And when this happened, I was living in Athens actually, and I couldn't believe that this was. I thought to myself, you know, there are 43 indigenous students studying to become teachers, and I thought 43 they're going to appear. 40 they have to. There were, you know, wide demonstrations in Mexico during that time, and 1 month passed, 2 months. Well, it's been almost 6 years, and we still do not know where the students are. Just last week, I was reading the New York Times. They found
The first one.
the bones, yes, of one. So we know now we don't know where 42 are. There's one of the students or one of the remains of one of the students was recovered. So in the pieces that you mentioned are actually, I took the silhouette and I divided it in different sections, and then different, you know, the participants were invited to create. They look like mandalas, but it's using the silhouette, and each silhouette has the name of one of the students.
Okay.
And they are 40 are in Athens in public and private locations, and the 3 last pieces were created in Brussels, Belgium.
And this week, movement posed a lot of questions. You asked yourselves, each other, and us a lot of questions about, you know, what is history, what counts as history, what counts as a historical document. You asked us to consider how a mandala can, you know, through beauty and through abstraction, sort of move us to imagine the erasure of human beings. And then in the last image, the second to last image that Eirene posted, you posted a capsized raft in the Northeast Aegean, which of course references movement between bodies of water, between land, between cultures, between nations, asking us, you know, how do we see ourselves in this context of motion? Can we imagine ourselves in these situations? Can we imagine the movement of our bodies? Can we imagine the movement of our spirit? And can we be moved ourselves to understand these profound social movements happening?
We both played with the double meaning of movement, you know, the movement and movement of bodies. So
yeah, that was evident.
I mean, I think by the third week, Blanka and I feel like we had this kind of gotten to know each other better and understood. Certainly, I understood a lot more things about Blanka's work. And what was interesting to me is that, you know, these aren't easy topics to make art about. So, you know, or to make images about. So I think, and there were, I want to say also before we go to the last week, there were some lighter posts. There were some posts to do with, you know, I don't know, nature, other topics. You know, they weren't all deeply political posts, although for sure, you know, the idea of nature is a deeply political topic. But
well, moving on to week 4,
yeah.
the topic, I think both of you decided on a very interesting title, which includes the political in many ways, but sort of, you know, the title is Magic, or the Time Is Now. So you're very much concerned with the social justice issues, the political issues, but you're insisting on reminding us to consider magic, and I'd love for you guys to talk a little bit of how you were thinking about that.
I think if the first week was, to do with where we are, something about place, and then the second week was to do with, positionality or relationships, proximity, and then, so the second week. The third week was more about, what was the third week?
Movement.
Oh, movement. So again, so physicality, bodies moving. So I thought it would be interesting to have something about time, and both time and something otherworldly, like Blanka suggested magic, and then I thought it should be with something else to do with, time.
Yeah.
And urgency.
Blanka?
Right. Well, because there was also these, as Eirene says, we did get to know each other better by the third week and fourth week. So I felt that at the fourth week, we really just we're really trying to present also a sense of hope, a hope, but in a hope in not in a very didactic way, but my postings were actually works that I created in Greece using pipe cleaners, and they're abstract pieces. But I used the text I used to describe the work was a text by an African-American young female writer, where she describes what it is that we need to do to help the situation, if you want to help the situation right now. And I took verbatim the entire letter, and I posted the letter because I felt that it's the time is now for those changes to happen, for those discussions and those conversations to be to happen all over, not just, and not only in the States. I think what has also been very interesting is the way that this has propelled other countries and societies to really address also their racism.
I appreciate you introducing us to this writer. Do you know how to pronounce her name?
I don't.
It's Alok Vaid Menon.
Yes, Alok.
Sorry to her and to everybody else that just heard that. But yeah, that was, she had some very profound things to say. And I love how she said that permanence is unambitious. Things don't die, they go somewhere else. And natural and reality are political aesthetics, birth new worlds. Every pattern can be unwoven.
Every pattern can be unwoven.
I mean, in this time, I think this is a very hopeful message. I imagine some people might be hearing that, reading that, and not be very comforted. But I think it's a very comforting message, because we tend to live our lives. We tend to order our perception around patterns, and they become very dear to us, even when they're harmful. And I think it's always very good to be reminded that, as we have been with this pandemic, I mean, we've had to respond in ways that were just unimaginable. The idea of our society just shutting down is just, even after even being in the middle of it, it's still almost unimaginable, because we've been taught to not embrace the openness that, yes, it's quite possible that we will wake up to one day when everything has stopped. And we have to rethink and reimagine, how can we make things better? How can we move things forward? So I appreciate those words. I think
I'm sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt you, but I also decided to end my interaction with Eirene with that image and with that text, because that actually was a text that I gave to my students, my high school students. I was teaching at Parsons, and Alok happens to be the family's originally from India. He grew up, I think he was born in Texas, and he's a non-binary a performance artist, designer, amazing, amazing human being. I have not heard anybody speak with such clarity about what it is to be a non-binary, queer, transgender, and the way he's not transgender, but the way he explains so clearly these things and these misconceptions and these biases that we carry with. I encourage, if people can go into the Instagram and just look up his name and look at his videos in YouTube, you will be, they're mind-blowing with the clarity and the precision.
Yes,
yeah, maybe
very inspirational.
We should say that this is our conversation is also archived at your website, at ARCAthens website for the people in the world that don't have Instagram, like me before I did this residency. Right. So and it's actually nicely laid out as on one page. So all the things that we are referring to are nicely laid out on one page in the archive of ARCAthens' virtual residency.
Thank you so much for mentioning that. That was going to be part of my closing statement, in which I was also going to thank Clayton Campbell, our arts advisor here at ARCAthens, who worked very closely to bring this to life. So thank you, Clayton, for that, and thank you to the fellows for being part of such an interesting project that, you're correct, is very, I think, well documented on the website. It's archived, it'll be there, as well as this video. We're recording this and we're gonna upload that as well. We can speak about these images and about your conversation for longer, but we did promise our guests that we'd give them an opportunity to ask some questions. And I don't know, Kat, are they asking questions?
We do have 2 questions so far, and so please, if you have any questions, feel free to continue to type them in or click the raise your hand button and ask it yourself. So first, we have a question for Eirene from Tim Robinson. He says he notices a majority of your work is in black and white, and can you tell us about this choice?
Hi, Tim. So it's true, most of my work is in black and white. I use color as an indicator of time. So in the series, for example, Other Things Happen in December Besides Christmas, that is 2 significant Decembers in Greek history, 1945 and 2008. And that was where I really explored what counts as a historical document, and who writes history and who records history. And so it was just as simple that December 1945 was in black and white, and 2008 was in color. So it often indicates time. Also in printmaking, one of the reasons that I love printmaking is that it refers to, often my source material, the whole history of printed media. And for most of its history, printed media has been in black and white. So I also use a weird blue color, which refers to microfilm. And I often invert images, because when you view microfilm, you view it in reverse, like a slide. So thanks for that question.
Thank you. And we have another question, apologies in advance if I mispronounce this last name, from Carol Zakaluk. You are both artists who have spent years living in each other's countries. Do you have any advice for future AVR participants who might not have that experience?
For future artists who do not have the experience?
For future AVR participants.
Well, I felt that our this specific interaction between and within the context of the time. And there were just a lot of, it was very emotional. So I kept telling Aris that I think it was so, for me, having to meet someone, you know, in that moment, and to really consider and think about a lot of the things that I was going through was very important. So I don't know how the interaction will be based on the different contexts, but just having that conversation with someone that I did not know. I knew some of Eirene's work, but I didn't really know who she was, or, you know, then like Aris has mentioned, you know, as we continued exchanging and really learning more about each other's work, I feel like I feel like almost like an expert on her work. You know, I feel very bonded with her, despite the fact that I don't know her personally.
I mean, for me, it was great. I mean, I felt really privileged to be able to, in a small way, share that time in the United States with you, Blanka. Mm-hmm. So I felt, you know, that was a great experience, a great way to be close to something. You know, I am, in a manner of speaking, American. I'm also American. So, but I haven't lived in the U.S. since I was in college. So it was as if I was a little bit there with you all going through this thing.
And I think that was part of my goal for this pilot inaugural virtual residency program is to, first of all, I know both of your work and I love both of your work. So it started with that. But the fact that, Eirene, you're a Greek that has some roots in America, and Blanka, the fact that you're American, but you have some roots in Greece, I thought would create an interesting dynamic for this pilot program and an interesting conversation. This is obviously completely unnecessary for future fellows, but I thought it was kind of interestingly timed with all the social unrest happening in the United States, how the both of you have a little bit of an insight into both societies and can process what's happening with that context. So that was really interesting. I do want to take this moment and introduce the second virtual residency project. Blanka and Eirene, our experience with you was so positive because this was just a conceptualized project. What would it be if we did this? And then to see it happen over the month was just really profound for us. We think it's a really important engagement for artists we support, and we're going to continue. The second one begins July 20th, and we've chosen an artist from the Bronx whose name is Michael Paul Brito. Yeah, we're very excited about him. I don't know him personally. I do know his work. I did see him lecture. Where I don't remember, some museum, oops. But I fell in love with his work then. And the Greek artist we've chosen is Eirene Linardaki. So, yeah, so we continue with the dialogue between the Bronx and Greece. We're setting a little bit of a pattern with the name Eirene, which for those of you that don't speak Greek, you should know that it means peace. And maybe we'll try to branch out maybe for the third one, but it's a great name.
And for those who might not know, Blanka means white. White peace, white peace. We need white peace.
Do we have any other questions? Yes.
Can I answer two questions at once? Because I'm cheating and I'm looking at the questions as they're written down. So Blanka, an anonymous person asked you if you're an angry feminist. And I mean, I want to take the opportunity to answer to that person that yes, I am also an angry feminist. I am an angry feminist. The anonymous person didn't ask me, and that actually is what I'm going to answer the second question from the chat, if that's okay. What components of your experience in this residency did you think will impact your work moving forward? What has left the most lasting impression? So to follow that, I mean, I think Blanka's work is in a feminist artistic tradition that I admire probably more than any other, I hope you don't mind me saying this, Blanka, more than any other tradition, but my work doesn't look like that. I don't make work that looks like the things that I love. So
right.
I think that throughout I was thinking about, especially in the last weeks, I was thinking about what images can I make that express this part of my loves, interests, you know, who I consider my artistic family. So that is definitely a component that I took away from our collaboration, Blanka. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, as I was also reading the question, they said, you know, what is it that we're going to take away from this? I really feel very connected to you, Eirene, on so many levels. And I feel like collaboration, something is going to happen. I can feel it. I also, and perhaps it has to do with, you know, I'm Mexican American, and I moving to Greece was it felt like in some ways I used to tell my husband Leonidas that I felt I was in Mexico. And I think there was that feeling of being in Mexico because of the history. You know, they're very, very distant, but there's still that you live between different times. And when I saw that in your work of how you actually layer all these different, you know, the temporality and the present and the past with all these beautiful print techniques, I was really, because I don't work in those particular techniques, but there's such poetry in the way that you are presenting the work, despite the fact that it's black and white, and despite the fact of the nature of what you're trying to address. There's, in that in between, it's for me, there's a lot of poetry. And so I take away a lot of things. Not only, I feel like, you know, in some way I have a new friend, and I have a friend that I did not expect in the middle of all the madness. But I also feel that visually and conceptually, your work has also made me think about a lot of possibilities, even within my own personal work. So I thank you for that.
And this pleases me to know and to hear, because that is part of our goal into offering this opportunity is a platform for you individually to share your work with us and your ideas with us, but also a conversation. It's very much about you getting to know each other and moving your ideas forward with each other as in conversation, and maybe hopefully that will continue. And I'm happy that you took the initiative.
Oh wait, Aristides, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I answered the question of whether I was an angry feminist. You know,
I was gonna address that, actually. I was gonna say, okay. I'm happy. When I read that question pop up, I was thinking, do we actually address this question, or do we move forward? And
sure.
Eirene was like, I'm going for it.
Yeah, I'm going for it.
The president of ARCAthens, George Nagapante, just posted, I'm an angry feminist too.
I saw that.
So, Blanka.
Well, yeah. No, I was just going to say there are a lot of things to be angry about, but you know, we can express that anger in very different ways. You know, so if anger is what comes across through the work, well, let it be present, because it is a feeling that it's a human emotion feeling that does happen especially for women, very often. So this is my way to sort of expand the conversation and hopefully impact and have some change and make people consider many things that are happening in the world in general that we need to change.
Kat, I see another question from
Yeah, I think the artists kind of addressed this, but we do have a question from Eirene Linardaki. Do the artists see a future collaboration, interaction that will happen because of the residency?
For sure.
Yeah, we got a couple questions actually from our audience asking similar topics as to whether this virtual residency, this electronic experience that we're all having, if it's going to have any future for you too. And we got a for sure from Eirene. And and you know, as a founder of ARCAthens, one of my goals is to have a continuing relationship with the fellows we support. As you know, I'm an artist as well, and I've done 5 residencies. This is what inspired me to go forward and create this program between Greece and the US and the rest of the world. And one of my lamentations in my experiences was how these amazing residencies that gave me this opportunity, everything was sort of poof, it finished and everybody moved on. We're here, and we very much want to continue working with our fellows, and that's very much in our DNA, this concept of, now that you're ARCAthenians, you're part of a family, so please communicate with each other, create opportunities with each other, and in any way that ARCAthens can help you, we're here for that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Are there, we're just a little over our limit. Are there any other questions that are popping up, Kat, that we should address before we go?
There's just this one question from Carrie Clark. She says, thank you for this inspiring exchange with Instagram as the main platform. Has this interaction created a new dimension to Instagram that allows for communication in a deeper way?
Well,
Hi, Carrie.
I didn't have Instagram before, so I think it was probably the most gentle introduction. I do have other, I'm aware of social media, but it was probably the most gentle and actually substantial introduction to social media that I could have. So I feel fortunate for that. I don't know about the rest of the future of my involvement in social media. It's a tough act to follow. So I don't know that we changed social media, but certainly my experience of it was much more pleasant for a month than it would have otherwise been.
Well, Eirene, you know, this is a conspiracy. A lot of people came together and said, invent a program simply to get Eirene on Instagram. So we're happy you're on the platform. And Carrie, I think that's an interesting question, you know, communications in a deeper way. This is a real challenge for so many reasons. We're not really taught to process digital communication with depth. It's all supposed to go really fast, and the ideas are supposed to be memes, which is the opposite, I think, of depth. But I think the platform of a month, which, you know, we gave you guys the weekends off, so it's 20 days of exchange, that approaches depth, I think, and we can continue to develop this program. We're going to do a little evaluation with our inaugural fellows to get some more feedback as it distills, as the experience distills, ways that we can make this better. But we're trying to approach depth as much as possible. I'm just really grateful that we have access to this amazing technology, and we can all be talking and seeing each other right now. As some of us are, you know, still very much locked indoors and trying to navigate this pandemic. So let's wrap up. I want to thank everybody, all our audience, for joining us with your wonderful questions. Let me just address one last comment that Iris Plaitakis, I read it. She says, "This is amazing and should continue beyond the pandemic." Yes, we're very pleased with the way this program is developing. And as I said in the very beginning, although this is a response to the pandemic, this very much addresses our foundational aspiration to have a more dynamic virtual presence and a more hospitable virtual home for our fellows. For instance, the archiving of this program is going to exist on our website. So for the duration, Blanka and Eirene, you'll be part of ARCAthens. We want to develop that. So yes, Iris, this will continue beyond. I want to thank all our guests that joined us today with your great questions. I want to thank the fellows so much for being part of our inaugural program. I'm really pleased about everything, and I just can't wait to see you both in person someday. I want to thank Kat Suarez so much for your technical support, for your support in general. In putting this presentation together, and of course Clayton Campbell, who helped design this beautiful program. Thank you, everybody, and
thank you.
Stay tuned. July 20th, Michael Paul Brito and Eirene Linardaki.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.